Okay, that looks like we have everyone that's been waiting in the meeting, so a big welcome again. So just a quick recap for what we're going to do today. It's the same as we mentioned yesterday. So today we are going to be focusing on a different question. It's the second question in the travel stream. And that question is, how should Scotland change how it travels by air to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way? So our focus today is going to be, or at least this morning is going to be, around air. After lunch, when we come back, we'll be talking about the process for developing recommendations. So there'll be a chance to revisit the conversations you had around land and to work on a template framework for some potential recommendations on tackling some of the challenges related to land, and then also some of the challenges related to travel. So our task for this afternoon is really moving to look at that recommendation template. But this morning, we'll be looking at air. So I just wanted to quickly tell you who's in the room. We do have Ian Stewart with us, the evidence lead again. And just to note that Ian may be dropping into some of the groups this afternoon, just to keep up with some of the conversations that you're having and to follow the progress of the assembly. We will also be joined by many of the speakers that you'll hear from over the course of this morning. And again, there'll be an option for them to drop into your rooms upon request, but they'll also be joining just towards the end of your sessions this morning as well. And they're there for you to ask any questions or to have any conversations you feel would be helpful at that point in time. Okay, so just a quick reminder before I hand over to Kevin. Again, there's going to be a little bit of information today. We are following a very similar, well, we're following the same pattern for air as we did for land yesterday. So just a reminder to keep something handy to take down any notes in a way that works for you as we're going through all the content this morning. Okay, so let's get stuck into things. Kevin, can I please hand it to you to introduce the first presentation?
Yeah, certainly. Good morning to everyone. I hope you're getting better weather than we're having down here in the Peak District. It's very dreary today. Well, our first talk today is by Alice Larkin. She's Professor of Climate Science and Energy Policy at the School of Engineering at the University of Manchester. And Alice has been working on aviation issues for, well, almost 2 decades now. And Alice is going to provide an introduction to air travel, which in Scotland, I think, is about 15% of all transport emissions. And that doesn't include the additional warming that we get when we actually emit at altitude, which I think Alice is going to talk about. I think Alice will also focus on how aviation, probably of all the forms of transport, is the most unequal in terms of, most flying is carried out by relatively few people. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Alice's video, and then we can have the facilitated discussion after that. So over to you, Alice.
Okay, so we are now actually going to go straight into our breakout rooms. And as we saw the video yesterday, we're going to do the same today and just have a reflection on what we heard there and have a chance to explore and to understand some of those key issues and key problems and their relationship to climate change. So thank you very much again to Alice for that video. And off you go into your breakout rooms. See you shortly. Brilliant. Thanks for getting started with the first discussions of today. So we're moving on, and what we're moving on to now is looking at some ways of making change to how Scotland travels by air to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way, and hearing a few different perspectives. So in this section, you're now going to hear 3 different presentations, which each bring a different perspective on how best the types of changes needed to air travel can be delivered. So just a reminder that you were sent a note-taking template that we'd like you to use again in this exercise in a way that works for you. And if you remember, that's the one that looks a little bit like a rainbow and it has those different levels. So it's the note-taking template that looks a bit like a rainbow that you need. So please do have that on hand if possible, or just try and think about how you might be able to organize notes in a way that works for you under the same headings. So please be prepared to take notes in that way. And just to let you know that speakers again will be available for the next breakout session and able to join you. So a reminder again of the question, we're exploring how should Scotland change how it travels by air to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way. So we are going to see a few video presentations. Kevin is going to introduce them. But just a reminder again with the videos that you can select a standard view. So if you look at the kind of top right normally of your screen, you'll be able to select a standard view, which might make the video a little bit bigger for you too. So just going to hand over to Kevin now. Over to you.
Thanks again, Kelly. I'm muted, I am. So we've got 3 presentations, and we're going to go one after the other. But again, like yesterday, we're going to have a short, just 1 minute after each presentation, just for you to reflect and take a few notes before we proceed to the next one. And the first one today is by Jonathan Hinkles and Andy Smith from Loganair. And they're going to be talking about Loganair's environmental commitment, its decarbonisation strategy, and how it tends to meet the net zero by 2045 requirement of the Scottish Act. So over to their video. Okay, we're going to go on now with our next short 5-minute film, and this is from Leo Murray. And Leo works for We Are Possible. They're an organisation that look at positive solutions to climate change. And Leo will be talking about a frequent flyer levy and also about reducing demand for flying. So over to Leo's film. Right, we're now onto the final of the trilogy of talks on aviation for in this little sequence. And this talk is from Anna Hughes, who's from Flight Free UK, and she's going to be promoting the idea of simply flying less. So straight over to Anna's video.
Hi everyone, thank you for listening to the videos and taking a moment to reflect there. So we're going to move now back into our breakout groups. Just to remind you that the speakers that you heard there and our evidence leads will be available to answer any questions, so let us know if that will be useful. After these breakout sessions, we will be breaking for lunch, so you'll be going straight from your groups to lunch, and that break will start at 12 o'clock. And then we're all going to be back for 1:30 again, and we'll be meeting in the plenary room. And what we're going to start with when we come back together at 1:30 after lunch is hearing some feedback in plenary all together from each of your groups. So do ever think about whether or not you'd be happy to present, and your facilitator will ask you in the next section if you want to volunteer. But we can open the breakouts and I will see you at 1:30.